Now let's look at SNMP enumeration. SNMP is simple. Simple Network Management Protocol. Managers send requests to the agents, and then those agents send back replies. It's commonly used for managing routers or hubs or switches, and it's used for a lot of network type equipment. Requests and replies go back and forth by using this agent software. The manager can also, though, in addition to sending requests for information, he can also send certain information. Now, traps are how the manager is notifying that something has happened to the agent at the end of things. For instance, if I do a reboot, or if an interface fails on a device, or maybe there's something else that has happened on the system. So I can enumerate NT users by using the SNMP protocol, and it's very easy to use a tool called SNMP util. And SNMP util lets me take a look at that information. I can also look at the MIB information, or the Management Information Base. What this is, basically MIBs gives us a standard representation that all SNMP managers can read about a particular device. A MIB is the basic form of this management. MIB2 is an updated version of the standard MIB, and MIB2 does have some new syntax type and some more manageable objects on the MIB tree. And it's this MIB information that I can read by using things like SNMP util. And that will allow me to enumerate that information. I could also, however, use a lot of different management tools. There are some tools that are made from Cisco. There are pinging tools. There's also a tool called SolarWinds. And what SolarWinds allows you to do is basically through SNMP manage, analyze, and connect to a lot of your different devices. So, like I said, SolarWinds gives you great control over the different devices, and it really gives you a lot of information. You can also use SNScan, and what SNScan does is a Windows-based SNMP scanner. And what it does is detect SNMP devices that are on the network. Once it finds them, then it's going to look for specific ports, and then it's going to go ahead and use standard public and user-defined community names. Normally you'll have public for your public trap, and you'll have private for your private trap. And you'd be surprised how many times a lot of people don't change those default traps. So this can be a very valuable tool as well. What can you do to stop SNMP enumeration? Well, the easiest thing is don't use SNMP. Turn it off or turn off the agent. Now, if you have to run SNMP, maybe some of your management tools require it, then make sure that you change the different names. You definitely don't want to be using the public community name. Make sure you change it to something else that's a little harder to guess. You could also implement a group policy security option that's called Additional Restrictions for Anonymous Connections. This will also limit the SNMP enumeration that can be performed. And last, you can access or restrict access to null session pipes and null session shares by using IPsec. And this is another way that you can help stop SNMP enumeration. One of the tools that you can use once you have this information is WinFingerprint. Now, what WinFingerprint does is it basically is a GUI-based tool. It lets you scan a network, and then basically by looking at that particular range and those particular options, you can try to enumerate the information on that range of options. Lastly, we get to Active Directory enumeration. Now, with any Windows 2000, 2003 network, all of the existing users and groups could be enumerated with a simple LDAP query. In other words, I can do a simple query against the system. Now, with 2003, the Active Directory itself is pretty much identical to the Active Directory that we had in 2000. So you can, again, run basic LDAP queries. Now, the only thing really required to do this enumeration is to make sure that you have an authenticated session to the LDAP itself. So you can connect to any Active Directory server by using ldp.exe on port 389. Then you authenticate yourself using guest, or you could use any domain account. Now, all the users and all the built-in groups can be enumerated. Once you find those, then you can go ahead and take advantage of them. So how do you countermeasure Active Directory enumeration? Well, the first thing you want to make sure is that you disable the guest account. The guest account by default should be disabled, and you should never have it be enabled. This will stop a lot of the Active Directory enumeration. Also, the Windows 2000 DC Promo installs screen prompts if the user wants to relax permissions on the directory to allow legacy servers to perform lookups. In other words, Do you want to allow Windows 2000 or 2003 to provide permissions that are compatible with pre-Windows 2000 or pre-Windows 2003 servers? If you enable that, then you are also running the risk for active directory enumeration. So basically, you want to make sure that you always just go for native mode or mixed mode at the least. So what are the actual steps we do to enumerate? Well, the first thing we can do is we're going to extract usernames using Windows 2000 enumeration. Then we can gather information from the host by using a null session. We can perform Windows enumeration using our tool SuperScan. We can get the user accounts by using getAccount, or we could perform SNMP port scanning by using SNScan. So in summary, enumeration involves active connections to the systems and/or directed queries. The type of information that I can enumerate or that the intruders can enumerate really depends, but it includes network shares, network resources, user accounts, those users' groups, any applications, and any banners. And null sessions are often used by the crackers to connect to the target system. NetBIOS and SNMP are two of the ways that people can disguise their activities to enumerate this information. And don't forget, there are also tools out there, user to SID and SID to user, as well as user info that can be used to identify vulnerable user accounts.